I'm Connor Olin. This is Old Oscar Countdown, and today we're going to be looking at the Best Original Screenplay category. Can't believe we're this far into it already, but the Oscar race has begun. We're going into more of the nitty-gritty categories, but if you're new to the series, what I do every single week is I break down a new category for the Oscars for the 2018 nominations. I will go all the way until March, guessing what I think is going to win for the Oscars, but right now I'm just trying to pick the nominations. And each video is going to be their own category. We'll see in the next upcoming weeks, not the upcoming week, but in the next upcoming weeks that I'm going to start to group categories together because I don't have enough weeks, but also I think it just makes it a little bit better to group some of the less interesting categories together to make it sort of in one bigger video. Also, just stay tuned. I plan on doing a Golden Globe nominations predictions, and then eventually later down the road, a Golden Globe Golden Globe just awards predictions. But right now, I'm focusing on the Oscars. Of course, before the Oscar nominations will be announced, I'll do one sort of final big update. But to keep things fresh and keep things updated, I've introduced a segment called Connor's Corner. Let's just keep you sort of in the loop of where my predictions are and how things are changing, which movies are rising, which movies are falling. So, the movie that I think is rising right now, and has sort of been in that sort of conversation for a while, but is really sort of gaining its lead, is Lady Bird. It came out of the box office in very limited theaters, very much an indie, and is making millions of dollars already. It's a smash hit in the indie box office right now. I think it's going to do very well. People are really enjoying it, and actually it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 100%, and you know Rotten Tomatoes is nowadays, people really sort of see it as like this huge thing, right? Everyone's talking about Rotten Tomatoes this, Rotten Tomatoes that, but 100% with the most amount of reviews. Something like Get Out, for example, has like 99%, but it has like 242 reviews, but Lady Bird has the longest 100% streak, which just passed Toy Story 2, which had 172 reviews for 100%. Lady Bird now has like 173, 174 last time I checked with 100%. So that's an incredible achievement for Lady Bird. It's like hundreds of critics at least like this movie, so it's definitely a critical favorite, and that combined with the box office success, I don't even think A24 needs to choose between this and Florida Project to promote. I think they're really putting their eggs in the basket for this, and then maybe a little bit of Zaz or a little bit of Florida Project. But I think if the right sort of sequence of events happens, because we're seeing that second sort of, that preferential vote for that best picture, right? You're looking at the second favorite movie or the third favorite movie, not the one that's divisive. That's why I don't think that Dunkirk's going to get in. But what is it going to be? It's going to be The Post. It's going to be The Shape of Water. It's going to be Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Right now, I think it could be Lady Bird, because that's sort of this general consensus pick that everyone really loves. But, you know, that's the critic side. It could win a lot of critics awards and beat out Three Billboards, or it could not. Right now, it lost out to Get Out at the Gotham Awards. But it's been getting nominated at all the right places. And I think right now, like my predictions, I'm saying Greta's going to get in for Best Director. And that could really sort of change up the race in that sense. So we'll see in that. And then falling, I'm going to say Victoria and Abdul. That was sort of in the beginning of the race. Oh, is this going to be like a Florida's Foster Jenkins like last year? Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't even seem like it's going to get in sort of the below the line categories. People are saying Judi Dench, you know, because she won before for playing Queen Victoria. Maybe she's going to get in. I don't think she's going to get in this time. I think right now that fifth slot, the top four, I think, or even top three are solid, I think, in Saoirse Ronan, Frances McDormand, and Sally Hawkins. And the last two spots are either going to go to Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Jessica Chastain for Molly's Game, or Meryl Streep for The Post. I have Jessica Chastain and Meryl Streep. I'm keeping those two right now, but Margot Robbie is definitely having sort of her surge indeed. But I think that Judi Dench is sort of out of the race. So Victoria Abdul, in that sense, is out of the race as well. Okay, let's go over into my first pick, which is Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Martin McDonagh. Martin McDonagh, I think, is known for his screenplays. He is actually a playwright when he's not directing movies. If you look at something like Seven Psychopaths or In Bruges, these are really well-crafted screenplays. And Three Billboards does it again. It's actually a stat for the first three nominees, and I did this on purpose because there's actually an Oscar stat that the Oscar winners, at least, not necessarily the nominees, but the winners, like movies with a singular name. So if there's too many names on it, like get rid of it. It's almost like the less names, the better. Because it then seemed like, oh, who wrote this? Martin McDonagh wrote this. It wasn't this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy and did rewords by this guy. Like, that seems more of a Hollywood sort of studio productionist. But if you have just one single writer, and then also he's the director of that movie, it very much feels like this is his vision that he wants to tell. He actually won an Oscar before, actually, as you see in this picture, for best I think live action short. It was a short, and just, I don't know if that was pretty funny. He was nominated before, I believe, too, for best writing for In Bruges. So they've recognized his writing before, even when it wasn't a big Oscar caliber movie. And here's the thing, right now I think Three Billboards very well could win this award. So if they win this award, I mean, could it possibly win Best Picture? Ooh, who knows, right? If Call Me By Your Name, I think will win Adapted Screenplay, that could win Best Picture, because the Screenplay Award generally goes to the Best Picture. Moonlight won Best Adapted, Birdman won Best Original, of course, Spotlight won Best Original, and Spotlight won Best Original Screenplay and Best Picture. That's it, So it could be sort of one of these weird years, because it's very much an open landfill right now. I don't know what's going to win, because normally last year Moonlight was a consensus pick, or it was Moonlight or Manchester, or the year before that. The consensus pick was Spotlight or Big Short, and then The Revenant was sort of the front runner, but I got rid of it. Same with Dunkirk this year. That's front runner, get rid of it. So I'm looking at these sort of these 2 and 3 slots, but this year is like, is it The Post? Is it Lady Bird? Maybe. Is it Three Billboards? Maybe. Is it Shape of Water? Maybe. Is it Call Me By Your Name? Maybe. I mean, there's so many maybes for the consensus pick. We'll have to see how would they do in sort of these preliminary awards to really give us that sort of judge and feel of things. But I'm pretty confident that this will get in because of its unexpected nature. It's very funny, it's very witty. People like it to a Coen Brothers thing, but I think it takes a different turn in that Coen Brothers-esque, but it has sort of that dark comedy that people associate with Coen Brothers movies, but I don't think it's as good. I'm not as much of a fan as everyone else is, but still is a great, really incredible movie with a solid screenplay, and actually might get nominated for The Connors, the most important award show, which is my award show. Don't worry, that'll be coming early January. Or I guess later January. We'll see. All right, my next pick, Get Out, Jordan Peele. He just won at the Gotham Awards for Best Original Screenplay, beating out Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name. So that's a really important thing, because Gotham Awards is sort of the beginning of the Oscar race, and him winning there is like, okay, they really like his screenplay, and the screenplay really is phenomenal. I mean, for this movie to stand out and sort of like this horror comedy doesn't make sense, but it really is, I think, the social satire aspect of the screenplay that he gets from his comedy background that really make it sort of smart and poignant, but it's also this Hitchcockian-esque thriller with some modern-day horror elements that sort of weaves through and takes just the right amount of twists and turns that feel earned, and sort of keep you on your toes like a great thriller does. And I think it's sort of a little, it's very visual to see how well this movie does, and it's very easy to see, oh wow, yeah, this is definitely a movie that it's like you can almost see that, oh yeah, visually you can tell, like, oh wait, I thought it was going to be this way, and then it was this way, or this connects to this at the very end, right? It's sort of, it's a little easy to see in a sense, oh, yeah, that's a good screenplay movie. A lot of people, I know, just general people, it has smart dialogue, or if it has sort of, twists and turns, they'll be like, oh, I really like that story, I really like the screenplay, right? So they will, so not necessarily liking that to director, but liking that to screenplay, and I think Get Out will get in for Best Original Screenplay because of that reason. And, it's been doing well so far in the screenplay categories, and could very well win, plus sole writer-director. In Jordan Peele, he wrote and directed the movie. That's what I mean when I say sole writer-director. My third pick, Lady Bird. Once again, this is my final pick for a sole writer-director. Greta Gerwig is her directorial debut. She's written movies before with her boyfriend, Noah Baumbach, specifically for The Great, Frances Ha, which she also starred in. So it's really great to see her have the success. I can't wait to see the movie. And this is sort of seems like a charming, all-encompassing movie. And what I mean by all-encompassing is it has sort of a dramatic aspect, there's just the struggle aspect, but then there's also this comedy aspect, and then there's like a homage from like to 80s teen movies to it, right? So you have this sort of huge sort of, it's thing where, you know, you'll have the funny moments and the comedy, you'll have the great story, you'll have the great relationships that they're able to build. And I think the sort of screenplay, while it's not as stand out as sort of a Get Out, to have the sort of great amazing lines like Three Billboards, it has this really all sort of encompassing, really charming type screenplay, and that sole writer director, I think, will definitely help Greg Gerwig. Okay, now for my fourth pick, I went with The Post. As of posting this video, the sort of early reactions are very positive. They're praising Meryl Streep's performance. And got standing ovation when they first got it. But like I said, in the last episode, Bridge of Spies got that. So maybe it's not this big Oscar contender that people thought. Actually, the National Board of Review did actually give it Best Picture, but some people actually gave backlash to that because they also nominated something like Baby Driver or Downsizing, two great movies, but you know, they did nominate them. Actually, too many people are hating on Downsizing. I don't like that. They haven't seen it, and it's a good movie. Just because they hear a critic give it or whatever bad review, it's a good movie, and you can very much like it. Anyways, so The Post. So early reactions are great, but some people are also saying, someone like Scott Pence over at Access Hollywood, one of my favorite critics, he's saying that The Post is really good, but it's not Best Picture material. It's not, wow, The Post, you know? But it has sort of that Meryl Streep quality. She could possibly even win for that. I think there's too competitive a year for that, though. But I think Tom Hanks could get in. Steven Spielberg could get in for a director. I think the screenplay is going to get it, because how can you nominate a movie about writing, about journalism, and not nominate it? Plus, you look at the past two journalism movies that have been really sort of contenders, looking at Spotlight, which won, All the President's Men, which did not win, but both of them won, or both of them were not, Spotlight won, and I think All the Presidents won, they both won their respective screenplay categories. All the Presidents went for Best Adapted Screenplay, and The Post for Best Original Screenplay. So that's a really big sort of key thing, that they like to nominate movies and award movies about writing, because it's sort of that journalism thing. Of course, you have Liz Hannah, who's a first-time screenwriter, then Josh Singer, who actually co-wrote Spotlight with Tom McCarthy. That's the Oscar picture there, actually. He won recently a couple years for Spotlight, and he says, you know, Spotlight was more of a journalism movie. This one is almost more of a business movie within the journalism world. That's why he's able to do it. So maybe it's not entirely as journalistic as we think, but still has that sort of smart thriller genre. Plus, you look at some of the other nominations of Spielberg movies, Bridge of Spies and Lincoln, his past two Oscar favorite type movies, got nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Even something like Bridge of Spies, you know, you have that Joel Cohen, Ethan Cohen aspect to it, right? And then Lincoln also got nominated. So I think The Post will get in if it's sort of a serious contender that we think it is. And you know, early reactions are great, so I think it's going to get in. Okay, my final pick that I think is going to get in is The Shape of Water for Guillermo del Toro and Vanessa Taylor. People are really passionate about this movie. Ever since we've seen it at Venice and Telluride, it's gotten this huge sort of applause, and people really enjoy this movie, this huge standing ovation. I think why it's going to get in is because it's very much a Best Picture contender, and because of their ability to really mix genres and juggle genres and weave through that through the story. So you have sort of these musical aspects to it. It's not musical, but musical aspects. Then you have sort of the Cold War. It's in the Cold War, so you have this political thriller sort of aspect in the cinematography. Then you have something like the fantasy thing that Guillermo's known for, because it's a romantic movie, though, because it's Sally Hawkins and a fish, and the fish is the fantasy element, right? So you have all these different types of genres going through, and I think they'll really appreciate Guillermo and Vanessa's ability to weave that through the story and sort of have a rousing movie, even though sort of the criticism is sort of a bit predictable. You know, The Hidden Figures got in for Best Adapted Screenplay last time, right? So I think even though it's sort of predictable, maybe the screenplay is not the highlight of the movie, because it's the Best Picture, because people really like this movie, people even think it could win. I think it's going to get in. However, I'm putting it in my last spot because it has stumbled recently, especially from the Independent Spirit Award, so it hasn't doing as well as people thought. Since we've seen it at Telluride or Venice, or I forget which one it was, and even something like Toronto International Film Festival, I thought it was going to win a People's Choice, but it didn't. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri did, and this didn't even come in the top three. You could say maybe that's because it was shown at other events, but I don't know. So maybe it's not this crowd favor that everyone thinks it is, but I do think it's going to get in for Best Picture, so that's a key thing. But it could very well be upset by my next possible, which is the strongest possible, which is The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon. this is an interesting movie just because of the story behind it. The movie that these two are married, and they made a movie about how they met each other and their love life, and how sort of she got sick and how he stuck by her side through that when they weren't even really dating at that time. They only sort of been dating for a bit, or they were on and off sort of thing. And Kumail stars in the movie as essentially himself in the modern day. He plays a guy named Kumail and dates a girl named Emily. So it's very much based on the real life and has a great Oscar story. The Oscar loves that great Hollywood story, and this is sort of this best sort of this indie big success that people really liked. 98% of Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of people really enjoyed this movie, including myself, and I think it's one of those years where it should get in, but it won't. But original screenplay, don't count out. It has been done this before. You look at last year's The Lobster, 20th Century Women. These are movies that got only one nomination, and that was in that category because they wanted to sort of show their love somehow. But I think overall the Academy will show preferences to the best picture nominees. So if you look at last year for adapted, the 5 nominees were all best picture: Fences, Lion, Arrival, Hidden Figures, and Moonlight. So that's out of the picture. And then original had La La Land, Manchester, and Hell or High Water. The only best picture nominee that didn't get in for a screenplay award was Hacksaw Ridge. So I think they really like to prefer, if they like the movie and it's going to get in for best picture, give it screenplay. It's very much a one-to-one correlation in that sense. I think because the original screenplay is such a competitive year this year, I'm kind of a best picture thing like Darkest Hour, or even something like The Florida Project. Those are 2 best picture quality contenders. This one less so. I think that's why I said it was falling, because I don't think it's going to get in for this. I don't think it's going to get in for best picture. Holly Hunter is the only one I think it's going to get in for. But who knows if it gains momentum at the Golden Globes? But Golden Globes don't really matter. But I'm going to be doing a video about them because they're still fun anyways. But yeah, so I think it's just going to go over to the best picture, even though it's a great story, even though this is a great screenplay that maybe should get in. I don't think it will. And then my final possible is Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson, sort of a claustrophobic thriller in that sense. And I think that it changes people's opinions on how people look. So maybe one day they're thinking, I think this character is really sweet and innocent, and then maybe they have a dark turn. So it's very easy to see, and I think this could be the saddest of this year, because I don't think it's going to get in for Best Picture. I don't think it's going to get in for Best Director. Could get in for this, but I don't think it will. So this is sort of maybe a movie that's falling. I might be talking about that next week. But I just think that it could get in because of Paul Thomas Anderson's sort of acclaim, and he's a writer director, so that could help him as well. But this and the post has sort of been the ones that we don't know too much about, and the post has really been staying, this one's really been falling, so I don't know what that says. But anyways, guys, for all those reasons, that's why I chose these 5 picks. This is an interesting category because this could very well be the early category that tells us what is going to win the award later on in the night. So if I can see a scenario where 3 Awards wins this category, but if Martin McDonagh doesn't get in for Best Director, does it win for Best Picture? I don't know, but I can see a scenario where it does get in for Best Director, doesn't win, but gets in for nomination, then it wins Best Original Script, then it wins Frances McDormand, then it wins Picture, or the reverse for Lady Bird. I see this getting in for Best Picture. I can see Lady Bird winning for Best Picture, not winning for Director, but Saoirse Ronan winning for Lady Bird, and this winning for Best Original Screenplay. It could be one of those years, you never know. That's why I love the Oscars, these theories. I hope you join along in the theories. Let me know some of your picks in the comments down below. I'd love to create this awesome film community. Next week, we're going to be looking at Best Adapted Screenplay. That'll be a really interesting episode because you're looking at some movies that won't get otherwise recognition. Logan, The Disaster Artist, Wonderstruck, Molly's Game, The Beguiled, some of these movies that don't get the sort of love that they maybe deserve in the Oscars, but still are great movies because the category is so weak. But that still means it's going to be a fun nomination, sort of predicting video in that. And you'll see a couple of prizes in that. I can't wait for that category to see, even though I think it's very much a lock in terms of its win. But you'll have to stay tuned for what I think is the lock. Next week, anyways, guys, I'm Connor Old, and until next time, stay tuned.